are bright and shiny in my mind. You got me loving, hating, crazy indecision in my mind.
Welcome to the Fall Podcast, where the focus is on deer hunting, tips, tricks, tactics, and stories from across the Midwest. And now, here is your host, Arron Blicey.
Welcome to the Fall Podcast. I am your host, Arron Blicey, and this is episode number 60. And this is a unique one. All the listeners right now are probably thinking, where the hell are you? Because they can hear windshield wipers, rain hitting the windows, and the mouth breathers that I'm sitting with here in this pickup truck. So, we are, pounding the pavement towards Kansas right now. We're in the middle of Missouri, the show me state, if you will. And I'm in the passenger seat. And Keegan is our designated driver. Well, no, we're not drinking. But he is driving right now. And Adam Rockstar is in the back seat. And he just got done watching Game of Thrones. Because Keegan and I are not to Season 8. Is that what it is?
Season 8, yeah.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
We're not current.
Not current. So we're trying to catch up. But we are cruising down the road. It is 10:30 at night. Not going to be in Kansas until about 1:30 in the morning. So we decided to do a little podcast here. Big BS session. Do you want to... Oh, there you go. You cut down on the windshield wipers there.
Yep.
Just came out of a hellacious rainstorm. So, guys, how you doing?
Doing good. I'm a little emotionally unstable right now. A lot going on. Trying to take it all in, and I can't talk to anybody about it, which is kind of upsetting, but...
You'll get there. That's all right.
Was it everything you expected?
Oh, it was almost more.
Almost more.
Yeah, because... See, now you get... I can't talk about it.
You can't talk about it. It's like Fight Club.
But you thought it was going to be like this epic battle scene for an hour and a half.
Which it was.
It was.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it was more, though. It was... Oh, gosh. See?
How many people... Aaron, don't tell Aaron and I, like, who, but how many people died?
Oh. I would say...
I mean, like, main people, or not main people, but cast.
Oh, jeez. Gosh.
I don't want to get into it. Let's not talk about it. Let's get to the nitty-gritty here. I want to introduce you guys. Now, some people may know you guys. Keegan, you were on episode 55, talking about mountain turkey hunting, social media, all that kind of stuff. And Adam, you were on the first podcast that we did with America's Best Bowstrings down with Bryant and Tim, but you weren't on there a lot. It was just kind of... You were there taking pictures and had a headset on, and you kind of chimed in every once in a while. But I don't know. I guess I kind of want to reintroduce you guys a little bit. So, Adam, just kind of give us the 30,000-foot view of who you are and what the hell you actually do.
Oh, boy. Well, I guess we just we begin with my journey.
I said 30,000-foot view, not the hour and a half version.
I get excited when I talk about it, though.
I know.
Oh, I would say 30,000-foot view. I would say I'm out here working with Russ Rooster. Or, sorry, Be Alive.
Yep.
I'm part of the Kiefer Brothers team.
Kiefer Brothers brand team.
Brand team, yes. Editor, field producer. Out here with the guys. Excited for Kansas.
Yep.
Put some turkeys down. I actually just put my first turkey down, my second turkey.
Second turkey ever.
Yes, it was exciting. It was 6 days of ups and downs, but man, it was fun.
Yep.
Fun. But
yeah,
excited.
you really hunted your ass off for that bird.
Oh, I did.
You put in your time.
Yeah, there's the first day where it was there's a lot of moving parts, and actually took my wife out for the first time for her first bird, and I would say we both We both gave her a try.
You gave her the old college effort.
Yeah, but stuck with it, and yeah, finally got myself a bird.
Yep. So Keegan,
Yep.
kind of reintroduce yourself.
I am a social producer for Be Alive, and do stuff with both the Kiefer Brothers and the Be Alive side. So,
Yep. And you
all-
come from Cabela's.
Yes.
You
Come
work
from
for-
Cabela's. I was out in Denver for almost 4 years. Wisconsin
Somebody
before
needs
that.
to. I mean,
It's not
that
like
is
your
really
fault.
unprofessional right there.
Sorry.
You interrupted Keegan as he was explaining his stuff. So no, you were out in Denver. Came from Denver.
Came from Denver, from Wisconsin before that,
Mm-hmm.
and it was school before. So I was in Wisconsin going to school, and then internship and first real job there, and then moved to Michigan in November. Loving it. I've been out chasing birds last week with Adam, and actually pretty much just Adam. So I've got to see a little bit of. I've had a few touch points with his week. His turkey week. He earned his bird.
He did.
Yeah.
Worked his butt off for it.
Yeah.
Well, let's get down to the meat and taters of this. I mean, we're just going to kind of BS here for a little bit. I really don't have anything wrote down. This is just time for us to kind of bullshit and pass the time, because, we were having a conversation here not too long ago on this 14-hour drive, and we were like, well, why don't we record this? So Keegan and I, while Adam was engulfed into Game of Thrones in the back seat, we were talking about, expectations that we have for, ourselves and as far as whitetails go. And I was asking him about, out in Wisconsin, what he strives to shoot every year and what he wants to go after and what his goals are. And I mean, you can kind of kick it off from there, and we can all chime in. Well, I mean, we'll go right down the line, you and Adam and then myself, and kind of just explain like what you're looking for. Like when you go out hunting, what is your goal for a whitetail season? What are you looking to get into, and what do you maybe call a successful year?
Yep. I would say, because I haven't got to hunt whitetails a whole lot the past 4 years, normally when I go back, I am able to sit a long weekend, or I get a couple weekends out in Wisconsin. So I am always hoping for, something big. I've shot a few 3 to 4 year and a half that are that, 15 to 17 inside, not super heavy, kind of spindly, whatever. So I pass on a lot of those, hoping for a 3-year-old or better now. And my thought there is, if I am after meat, I'm just going to shoot a doe. Just because I like watching deer. So
Yep.
for me, it's, if I really need meat, there's a ton of does that are on the property in Wisconsin. That being said, I haven't shot a deer with my bow or a buck with my bow in, I don't even know. I'm coming up on probably 10 years. So I'm on a really really bad drought right now.
You're due.
So, yeah, I'm due. This year, I would say, I would like to shoot something bigger, but if it makes my heart pound, then I'm gonna pull the trigger on it. So.
Yep. So what you were saying is, like, you've kind of went through the steps. Like, you've shot the 1.5-year-olds. You've shot a good amount of 2.5-year-olds. Those, prototypical 100-inch, deer.
Mm-hmm.
8-pointers, 9-pointers that are 15, 16-inch spreads. Now you're kind of ready to up that ante a little bit.
Yep.
And I think that's, I've said it before, I think that's what a lot of people come into, is they it goes in steps, and they just kind of want to better themselves a little bit and try to go after something because it's a challenge, right? And just like you, a lot of people our age are like the does are, if you want meat, you go kill the doe.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I mean, the trophy's in the eye of the beholder. So it's like, I like your philosophy, and I do the same thing. And it's like, if that deer makes you happy or excites you, then, I mean, oblige. Like, take him.
Yeah.
And I was telling you about a deer that I had on one of the farms this year that I believe was 2.5 years old, and I showed you pictures of him. He was all of 120-inch deer, and I just thought he was 2.5, and I'm like, well, my criteria was, I try to go after a 3.5-year-old deer, so it's like, what do you do with that deer? And that deer, as far as antlers go, and age in a way, I mean, that's the top 10% of the deer in my area. So, luckily I never saw him to have to make that call, but I'm not gonna lie to you, I couldn't have passed him up.
Right.
It's just, I couldn't. I haven't shot enough deer in Michigan to be able to do that. That's, of that caliber. I have out of state, but it's not highly as pressured out of state where we've been hunting, and that deer still excites me,
Right.
So, Adam, as we're rolling through the rumble strips. So, Adam, what is your philosophy? I mean, we talk about this, daily in the office about scenarios. We always give her scenario, and, what are you, let's first say in Michigan, what are you looking for in Michigan, and what's the Adam Raak criteria?
Oh boy. I mean, coming off of living in Illinois for a couple of years, hunting public ground, it got me a little excited. So when I recently moved back to Michigan, I was able to get my hands on a nice 80, and kind of gave me some options. I hunted the first 2 weeks of November, and I passed up probably one of the biggest bucks I've ever passed up.
Yeah.
And I don't know. You kind of have to change your mindset coming from state to state, and every state is different. And that's probably one of the biggest conversations we have up at the bullpen, where different states provide different caliber deer. Yeah, I mean, you gotta take it.
Yeah, explain that deer that you passed up. Like, what was he?
When I first saw him, I actually had trail cam pictures of him, and I would say, just looking at the trail cam pictures, I would consider him a 3-year-old. He was a nice slick 8, pretty symmetrical, probably about 14 inches spread, 14-inch spread, inside spread. Yep. And he was a good deer by all means, but when I saw him on the hoof, I didn't get excited. And what Keegan said, harvest what something makes you excited, and I didn't get that feeling when I first saw him.
Do you think it was because you've been spoiled being out of state and killing bigger deer? I mean, you've killed some good deer in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, hunting out of state and coming from Illinois for a couple of years, do you think that kind of spoiled you, or I mean, was that it, or was it just, you're past that?
It's a little bit of both. I would say, obviously coming from out of state, being able to see a lot of good deer and passing up probably deer that I would shoot in Michigan. But then again, there's that. It was like the first time I stepped foot on that 80. I didn't know what it had to offer really.
Mm-hmm.
And right when I came from Whitetail Properties to the Kiefer Bros, I didn't have much time to scout. That 80. And I mean, we were in Kansas and we were in Missouri, Ohio. So, seeing that deer, it was. I don't know. Would I shoot him? Maybe.
Do you kick yourself in the butt now?
No. I'm excited for this year.
But it would have been your biggest Michigan deer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, by far.
So, now tell me this, because, you know, given the area that we have, you know, and where your 80's at, there's not a plethora of 130-inch, 140-inch deer running around. There might be a couple. And, you know, are you going to be holding out for a deer such as that, 3.5, 4.5, that's Pope and Young or a little bigger? Or if that deer walks in again next year, are you going to, you know, take him? Or are you going to make that decision if he excites you?
Gosh. I mean, I would say, I mean, he's going to be at least no less than a 3-year-old next year. I mean, he could be 4-year-old. I might have mistaken him on the hoof. But I'm shooting something that gets me excited. I mean, I haven't shot a deer on that property yet. Not even a doe.
Yep.
So I think coming into this year, I'm going to be pretty excited. I mean, even if I don't get trail cam pictures of them, there's a lot of movement going through that property. I've got state land just north of it. Got a property north of mine that isn't very pressured. So I think I'm going to be able, once I get doing some work in the property, you know, doing my hinge cutting and putting in some food in the area. So I think I'll be bringing in a lot of different deer. So I'm pretty excited for next year.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with both of you. You know, I used to be that one where it was like, you know, I need to shoot the biggest deer in the area, you know, and it's like you kind of have to take a step back, I feel like, and just, you really got to hone in on, in my opinion, you got to hone in on what your farm can hold and what your area has and what it can produce, you know, and figure out that, you know, that top 10% of what, you know, you're there. And we run cameras all the time here in Michigan. I mean, everywhere, but I'm specifically talking about Michigan. And, you know, the biggest deer that we get on the farm are Pope and Young deer. Like, those are our, like, unicorns in a way, you know, and it's, you know, I've never got a 140-inch deer, 3.5, 4.5-year-old deer on camera in Michigan in any of my areas. Now, the biggest deer that I've ever got on camera was, and I know this because the neighbor killed him, was like a 132-inch, you know, 4.5-year-old deer. And
respectable buck.
Yeah, oh yeah, great deer. Anywhere, honestly.
Anywhere,
I mean,
yeah.
Anywhere you go, and, you know, would I have shot that deer? Hell yeah, I would have shot that deer. You know, you'd be crazy to say I wouldn't. But, you know, if I run so many cameras and I know all the deer basically pretty intimately on the farms that I hunt. So, like, if I go out there and shoot a 3.5 or 4.5-year-old 100-inch 8-pointer, if that deer comes out and he's like, I know it's him, like, that's Larry. You know what I mean? And it's like, he's been on the farm for 2 years or 3 years or whatever. That's what excites me. Like, the antler size really doesn't matter to me. I mean, I'm not going to go out there and shoot a basket rack 6 because that doesn't excite me. So I guess it all comes down to just when he comes out, it's like, you know, first of all, the storyline. What kind of story, what kind of journey do you have with this deer? And it's, you know, that's pretty big to me, you know, and I think it's big to all of us. It's nice to have those, you know, deer that you had history with, or, you know, seen a couple times or scouted all summer, and you know he's there, and it's like, man, and then when that happens, when you put a bow on that and actually get an opportunity at him and you know, conquer that, like, that is the coolest and most challenging thing. It's just so much fun. That's why I love about this, you know, thing we do called hunting and bow hunting. Like, that's just the ultimate for me. And, you know, I guess what I'm getting at is, you know, don't always look at the antler size. I think everybody gets wrapped up into the antler size, and I was one of them, you know, and, you know, just go have fun.
I was going to say, I think a lot of it, for me personally, has to do with, you said it, history, and then the challenge is like, the biggest one, because it's just a chess game. If you have a longer history with a buck on your property, you're getting pictures, you've had a few encounters, maybe he outsmarted you a couple times, or got you on the wind one day and you didn't get your chance. Well, then that just makes it's the chase, right?
Right.
And then I mean, that's for me too, is like I said, if I want meat, I'll shoot a doe because that's meat. And to me, the basket rack, like you're talking about, I think it's easy. It's like a Jake when it's a turkey. They haven't been around long enough to understand what danger is sometimes. Like you get a small buck that'll just come in and mill around your stand at 15 yards and look up at you and not care at all. You could draw back while he's watching you, and it would sit there and have no idea what's going on.
Exactly.
Well, you definitely can get away with a little bit more.
Yeah. This wouldn't have been last year's season. It would have been not 2018. It would have been 2017 deer season. I was out hunting. I hunted 2 nights in a row on the same stand. Or no, sorry, there were a couple nights in between there, but same stand. And had this deer come out. He was for sure a 2.5-year-old deer. And he was a split-browed 9-point, and for sure 2.5. No way this deer was a day older. And, well, I guess I shouldn't say that. I mean, he really wasn't wearing a birth certificate, so I really couldn't tell you. But, like, in how I judge deer, I guess, I was, like, guaranteeing myself this deer was not a day older than that. But he came out split-browed 9-pointer, and he was wispy. And, a lot of people say it comes down, talking about inches all the time. Well, I'm sorry, but that's where we're at now, and that's, like, where the best way to describe a deer. It's like everybody's like, how big was he? And I'm like, well, if you really want me to paint a picture over the audio here, he was an 80-inch 9-point, split-browed 9-point, as a 2.5. So I'm like, man, I could have killed him all night, sat in front of me for 20 minutes, eating on the beans. You know what I mean? And it's like, I let him go, and he made it through. And then he came into 2018, and this year he lost one of his splits, and he was pushing 120. You know what I mean? As a 3.5-year-old. I don't know what happened to him. I didn't get confirmed that he either died or made it through, because he vanished off the farm come early October. But, like, 1 year made that deer the difference when I was like, okay, now I'm ready. Now, like, I got a year of history with this deer. I filmed it with my phone. I got tons of trail cam pictures of him as a 2.5. Now, like, that's the history. The chase has started.
Yeah.
And it was the same way with Jim Abbott. I mean, that was just cool. And honestly, when I first started with Chris and Casey doing this, Casey was kind of the one back in 2012 that, like, really, like, solidified and started doing, like, he picked out a deer. He was like, we're hunting this deer. And I've never really done that before. And we hunted this one deer, strong arm, for 2 weeks and ended up killing him. And right then I was like, that's awesome. Like, that is the way to do it. Like, and ever since then, and I'm not going to sit here and say, well, I'm never going to kill, like, a random buck that doesn't come through. I'm not just going to, but it's, like, cool to have that story and that history. Like, it's just that it just makes that challenge, I feel like, a little bit more, harder or more fun. So I don't know, there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, and it's like whatever you enjoy, whatever you like, and whatever excites you, go after that.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. Now, are you shooting a doe first, or when it's first week of October, are you shooting a doe or a buck?
So it's kind of changed for me over the years. Back in high school and in college, when I had a lot of time to hunt, I shot a doe the first night I could. I didn't go into my best spots. I'd go in October 1st and I'd just get it out of the way. Get one under your belt, get some confidence going, get some meat in the freezer. But now, I mean, with our schedules, like, I average maybe 10 sits a year. So it's like it's really hard for me I gear up my whole off season because Chris and Casey don't do a lot of hunting in that first 2 weeks of October. So I know I'll be able to hunt those first 2 weeks. So I gear my whole off season to those first 2 weeks. Like I get everything ready to try to kill something in those first 2 weeks. So it's like I go in there into my best spots when the wind's right, when the temp's right, and everything's right. I slip into my best spots early like that, and that's when I try to kill a buck that I'm honed in on. So no, to answer your question, I haven't in the last couple of years because I always know that I'm going to get a lot of not a lot, but some good late season hunts in with a muzzleloader or something, and because Chris and Casey are kind of done around first of the year, and I can go back to either out of state and hunt a doe, kill a doe on their farm, that they want does off of, or right around that Thanksgiving time as well. Like I'll go kill a doe then. So do I want to kill one first? Yeah, I do. But since I gear my whole off season up to kill a buck in that first week or two, it takes a back seat, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, totally understanding.
I don't know. That's just my philosophy on it right now, and I just don't know how much time I'm going to get to hunt, and I just want to get myself in a position to be able to take down a buck that I've been after right away. So, because I don't get a lot of time to hunt in the rut. None of us do,
No.
and it's and that's the time. I mean, my favorite time to hunt is October 27th through November 3rd in Michigan. It is if you could give me 5 or 6 days, that's when I'm going to pick to hunt, to take off work and hunt. That's when I'm going to do it. I've had so much luck with, the more mature bucks, the bigger bucks on their feet in daylight, looking for that first hot doe in that time frame. Because once the does start coming in estrus, they are so unpredictable. You're just hoping and praying. Because I grew up hunting big woods, a lot of timber, and try to find a pinch point or trying to find a ridge, and it's like, or something, a bottleneck or something to get these deer to kind of narrow or to neck down into, and it's just like these bucks are just chasing these does all over, and it's really a guessing game, and so that's the time that I really like. I don't know what's your guys' favorite time here in Michigan, or Keegan's never hunted Michigan, but I guess in general, when would you be taking your time off of work if you had a choice to go and hunt? Let's say you had a week, 7 days to hunt, when are you taking that off and why?
I would probably go around that same time. A lot of my success in the past has always been Halloween. That's when I have done the best, is like that Halloween weekend. And I remember a lot in high school where it was like friends were wanting to do a Halloween party or, go do stuff like that. And I wasn't doing that because I wanted to be in a tree stand that weekend, so I'd be gone. So I would say, like the 27th through the early part of November would be for me.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say around the same time. I've had really good luck. October 31st. I mean, who doesn't want to be in the woods?
Right.
October 31st if you're a hunter.
Yep.
Just that feeling,
Leaves are changing, and it's, and it's, I don't know, it's the fall.
It is. And I've also had really good luck second week of November. So it's
Really?
like that time frame.
Yeah. I've killed, my biggest Michigan deer was in December. But my two deer after that, my two biggest deer in Michigan after that, I killed one on October 18th, and I killed one on October 1st. And both were 3.5-year-old deer. I'm sorry. I killed one, yes, on the 18th, on the 1st, and then I killed one on November 2nd and had an opportunity at another one on 2 days later on November 4th. So, kind of spread out a little bit, but like I said, I mean, most of my activity has been in that latter part of October, early November. The October 18th buck was back in 2009, and that buck was the first buck that I ever got on trail cam during the summer, because I was just starting to run cameras then, and he was the first buck that I got on trail cam.
This is your 1 acre?
Nope. No, this was family farm.
Family farm.
And yeah, and I got a picture of him on August 18th, 2 months to the day when I shot him. And I went down in that area, that general area. I was hunting the first couple weeks of October. I was hunting a food plot that I had created. That was the first year I created that food plot for that, for kind of that deer. It was just outside of his core area. I really didn't know where his core area was. I was still trying to figure that out. While I was hunting, I was not seeing a lot of deer, and I was trying to figure out why. So I went in, and I was like, I'm going to move this stand, and I got down on the edge. It was an edge. It was an edge from hardwood timber to cedar swamp, and I got right on that edge, and I remember it was really warm that day. It was a Sunday, and my brother-in-law went in with me, and we were filming. He was filming me, and I wanted to get in early. I mean, hell, we were in the stand at 2 o'clock, 1 or 2 o'clock, real early. And only saw one deer that night, and it was him. And I heard some footsteps and coming from the cedar swamp, and all I could see was feet. And he come out, and when he came out from the cedars, and I could actually see it was a buck, a good buck, he was already at 20 yards, and he walked right underneath the stand. That was the first hang and bang I'd ever did too. I hung the stand that morning, then got into it later that afternoon and killed him. And so that was him. And then October 1st was that deer. I filmed him in the hayfield that summer, knew him, had trail cam pictures of him all summer in velvet. Right before the velvet came off, he broke his G2 off. I didn't know that at the time. Went in there October 1st night, knew this was his bed to food pattern, and got an arrow on him that night, 18 yards, and that was cool. So
that's a good feeling.
When does season start in Michigan? Is it October 1st?
October 1st, yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't ever have a chance at bucks in velvet here?
Nope.
Unfortunately not.
No. Youth season, some people have killed. Youth season usually comes in around September 20th, somewhere in there. Sometimes you'll get them. I know a couple kids that have done it. Not very many.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
What's your input on the old youth season?
I
know it's kind
Is
of
that with a rifle?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Or I think you can shoot a bow too, I think.
Oh, yeah, it's weapon of choice.
Man, I grew up, my dad not letting me use, I grew up with my dad not letting me hunt the youth hunt because he didn't believe in it. He didn't believe in getting me out, being able to get me out there 2 weeks before everybody else would want me to hunt more and more. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I have to agree. I just don't agree with it. I'm all for getting kids into the outdoors and new hunters. All for it. I just don't agree with it. I think it should come in somewhere, around middle of October, or it should come in around Thanksgiving. Because my whole thing on it is Michigan's never going to move their opening day of rifle season. I mean, it's a holiday, November 15th, and I hate that it comes in on November 15th. Because
why is that?
It's the heart of the rut, and I understand there's a lot of just rifle hunters out there,
mm-hmm.
and I hunt with a rifle too, but I mean, I'd just rather hunt with a bow. And I mean, once November 15th hits, bow season is over. I mean, in my area, where I hunt, for you to go in there and kill a buck that you're after November 15th is very difficult. I mean, very difficult.
So you never go in the woods during gun season with a bow?
No. I mean, no, I'm usually gun hunting. Like, I actually, honestly, I haven't been home to hunt, in that time period since 2012 or 13. Last year was the first year I got to come home in the rut a little bit. But, so I haven't even gun hunted much. Last year I did a little bit, but I don't know. For one thing, I think our gun season's way too long.
Agreed.
It's 2 weeks long. Now, and that's just make it 3 or 4 days, and maybe make it 3 days, and make it two different gun seasons maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So a total of 6 days, and let the guys, everybody go out there and have fun and still have camaraderie and deer camp and do the Michigan tradition. But man, I mean, 2 weeks is just a lot. That's a lot. And then you got muzzleloader season that comes in, and that's lengthy too,
Mm-hmm.
And but to go back to your question, the youth hunt, I just feel like it needs to be moved a little bit. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Is that coming from a bow hunter? Because obviously youth hunters, most of them are using guns. They're not using bows, and they're not using crossbows or anything like that. They're using guns, and so that leads right up into October, where that's when you're in the woods.
Yeah.
Would you say that's a big reason why?
I think the big reason why is, like, I don't think it's jealousy or anything like that.
Oh,
I think
right.
I think it's, a lot of the bucks are still in bachelor groups. Like, if we could hunt on September 20th, imagine the deer we'd kill.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like, there would be no deer left. Like, there'd be no good bucks left. Because they're just so predictable. And
What about for Kentucky, though?
Even with a bow, you mean?
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I think so. It's just, well, Kentucky, it really doesn't have the amount of hunters that we do.
That's true.
So we've got so many hunters. But the thing is like, I know 10, 11, 12-year-old kids that are going out and shooting 140, 150-inch deer
Mm-hmm.
with a gun on September 20th. And it's like,
Do you think they're learning
exactly.
as much?
You think that is getting them into the woods, wanting them to be there more?
Right.
Or is that spoiling them?
Uh-huh.
I know these two kids that are now, one's 16 and one's 12 or 13. All they know is, like, the only thing they want to do is, like, if you can't kill anything small, like, it's got to be big. And it's like, I don't know. My first buck was a 6-point. My second buck was a 5-point, a 3-legged 5-point with a gun. And that was, but the thing was back when we grew up, there were no crossbows either. Like,
right.
I learned on a compound. My dad got me my first compound. It was like one of those little Bear Brave, and you can't even call it a compound, but like 5 years old, I was shooting that. And then he bought me my first compound when I was 9. And he said, we couldn't start hunting until we were 12.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't start bow hunting. So we didn't learn on crossbows. We didn't learn on, anything other than a compound. And I just think that, I'm not saying there's anything against crossbows, but I think there's something about teaching your kid and learning them on a compound or a recurve or a longbow. There's something to be said more about that than basically giving them a gun with limbs. You know what I mean? Like,
you would, that's what you're considering a crossbow?
Yes, I would prefer.
Would you prefer the youth hunt going to crossbow and not gun? I mean, would you consider that being a more learnable or teachable method?
I honestly would.
Right, because you got distance.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little more of a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is. And I mean, that's a good point. And like I said, there's these kids out here just shooting absolute giants
Mm-hmm.
in bachelor groups, and it's like, that's great. Like, I mean, good for you, but where's the woodsmanship that you're supposed to be teaching these kids too?
Well,
I mean, you're getting them out in a box blind on a hayfield or a bean field and just letting them hammer down. Like,
I guess we're hoping, in our minds that, these kids are actually helping their dad throughout the season, to be able to kill that deer.
yeah,
That's what we're hoping is happening. It's not like their dad's just bringing them out to a spot, and helping them pull the trigger.
and I don't know about you guys, but, my dad had me in tow all the time when I was really little. Probably shouldn't be going, walking around in the woods, but that he just did. And I remember watching him hang stands when I was little, like real little. He took me bow hunting for the first time when I was 7. And
sit on the platform.
He put a stand above him like, we do now for filming, and he took a seatbelt out of his old pickup, and he strapped me on the platform with that seatbelt and said, "Don't move," and my feet dangled by his shoulder, and I did that until I could bow hunt, until I was 12. He couldn't get me out of the tree stand, but he was also teaching me like what hunting was about, what white acorn trees were, what pine trees were, what deer like to, where they like to bed, where they like to feed, where their transitions, like how to enter places, how to hunt the mornings, and like that's what I remember, and I just see a lot of these kids now, like, yeah, they're getting into hunting, but it's like fizzling out, or they're just not learning what I feel like they should be learning, and that's just how I grew up, I guess, and I just don't see kids out there doing that anymore. And I think just going out there on a edge of a field and sitting them in a box blind and putting their gun in a Caldwell lead sled or something like that is just, I just don't think it's really teaching them a lot.
No.
I think the crossbow would be a good idea. It's a good compromise.
Absolutely. I mean, it gives them the distance. They actually have to, sit still and wait for this animal to come within range. And I think that's just huge. I mean, Arron, to your point where your dad put you up on the platform, he seatbelted you in so you were secure, but was there ever an opportunity where your dad was able to kill a deer? Or did you watch him miss? Did you watch him go through emotion?
Yeah, I did actually, and that's a good question because when I was 8, he took me out. I can show you the exact tree. I know where the exact tree is.
Never forget, right?
I'll never forget it. It's a big white pine, and huge white pine now. Took me out, and we went out the night before, and it was in the rut. It was like right around Halloween that time, and I got to see my first fox run under the tree. Had no idea what it was, no idea, and I learned what a fox was that night. My dad told me what a fox was and explained it to me, and then we had like a little 6-point come through chasing a doe all over right underneath the stand, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And he taught me like what that was about. Like, this is breeding. This is what they're doing. This is what the deer are gearing up for all year, is to breed, and this is what the rut is. And that was so cool to me. Like, I remember that it like so vividly that it was like, I just remember it. And so I remember we went home that night, and he wanted to go hunting the next morning, and I wanted to go. And he let me go with him. I was scared shitless of the dark. Did not like the dark. A little 8-year-old kid, and did not like the dark. And holding his hand going out there, he got me up in the stand. I mean, now that I have a kid, like, kudos to my dad, and like, thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking me, because I know, with my daughter, how difficult that probably was with me, and to get me there to sit there that long and just not do anything or not make a noise or anything. Like, I thank him for doing that, because I don't know if I would have had the patience to do it, and he took me out, and I remember this morning like it was yesterday. It was the frostiest morning, coldest morning. The leaves were almost white. with Frost. And we get in the stand. He taught me how to run a grunter, and my feet are dangling there, and he said, every time I tap your foot, I want you to grunt once. As it, broke daylight, he tapped my foot, and I just, give a grunt. And morning went on, and I remember, dude, it was dead calm, and all of a sudden you hear, shh, shh, shh. And that was the first moment I remember hearing that noise of a deer walking. And it was coming right at us, right from in front of us. And I'm like, my dad looks at me and goes, there's a deer coming. We couldn't see it. It was behind another pine tree. Finally comes up to this pine tree. Behind the pine trees in between us and the deer. And all I remember seeing is the legs. And the deer had to go either left or right to go around the pine tree to come in front of us. Didn't know if it was a buck yet or not. I remember letting out a grunt. And I'm like, thought to myself, like, what was that? Not really knowing what it was at the time. He walks out, and here it is, this buck. He's an 8-pointer. He's about 13 inches inside, and he's about like a 90-inch 8-pointer. And I'm like, giant, thinking this is the biggest deer ever. This deer comes to like 15 yards, and my dad throws a 55-75 Easton aluminum arrow with a Zwickey 2-blade broadhead on it through the chest cavity of this deer, and it runs like 20 yards and dies right in front of me. And he told me that I let out the loudest scream in joy, and was like, I remember seeing the deer fall right now, and I was like, that was just, and I was, ever since I was hooked, that was all it took. But how many dads are out there taking their kids of that age in a tree stand now?
Nowadays,
is there any? I don't know. But back then there was no like ground blinds really. Do you remember ever there being pop-up blinds and like putting a pop-up blind out and going to hunting them? I really don't. I don't know. I learned so much in that, and I just want to be able to do that to my kid too. So I don't know, that was the coolest memory I've ever had, and I was hooked.
You were hooked ever since?
Yeah.
I
Do
think
you guys remember?
regardless too, it's whether if it isn't a pop-up blind or it's a box blind or whatever, but if you're just if you get your kid out there, say it's archery season or you go with a crossbow or whatever, but just to do what your dad did, if you're in the blind and just engage, like
guys.
he engaged you. Yeah, I mean, you were part of the hunt because he gave you the grunt tube and said, hey, every time I tap you, I need you to do this. So he made you a part of what was going on.
Yeah.
And
that's huge.
Yeah. Oh, it is huge.
Teaching you what's happening as it's happening, whether you're in a tree stand or a ground blind, but him doing that and then explaining things as they're happening, it's like you're far more engaged than if you're just along sitting there and don't really know what's going on.
I agree with you, and I'm not saying everybody out there go get your kid in a tree stand because that's the only way to do it, but that was like a stimulating moment for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And like I said, I don't remember there being ground blinds and stuff back then that you hung out without, or with a bow out of. At the end of the day, just get your kids in the woods.
Yeah.
Just get them out there and learning everything, and just get them involved in it, and
make them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I mean,
yep.
So I do remember actually with my dad and my younger brother, when we were little, my dad had a pop-up turkey blind, and he set it up at the front of the woods. We raked out the whole bottom of it, so it's just,
bare dirt.
Yep. And my brother was probably like 4, and I might have been 5 or 6 at the time. And my dad brought a blanket, and we had snacks, and like, we would all just sit in there. And if you got tired or whatever, then you just laid down and fell asleep.
Yep.
But it was like, being out there sitting with your dad or whoever you're with, and then same thing, he would be talking to us about what's happening as things are going on, and that was cool. And I think that that's part of it too, where you want to make sure that the first experiences that you have with a kid
are good.
So make them comfortable, if that means like snacks or toys or whatever. I have a friend of mine that I met at a film school who took his son out last year, and he shot an amazing blacktail in velvet with his son, who's 4 years old. And the picture that he has is probably the coolest picture I've ever seen. It's his son holding what are they? It's Star Wars, the X ship. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
So it's the little kid. He really doesn't care about the deer at all, but he's sitting there playing with an X-wing in front of this, beautiful blacktail that's in velvet. And he's like, I asked him, I'm like, what was that about? And he's like, he sat behind me or right next to me and was playing with this X-wing the whole time the thing came in, and saw the deer, whatever. But just the fact that he let him bring toys out there and made it fun and whatever is like, he's gonna remember that, and so is his son, just because he had a fun time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I remember walking up on the first deer that I killed was a doe. I was 12 years old with a bow, and I missed her the first shot, and she came back, and I ended up shooting her, and she ran off. I watched her die, and I remember walking up on her for the first time scared, like, what just happened? What did I just do? And it was an experience that I almost want to go back and watch my 12-year-old self do it again. I want to see it as a dad. I want to see my reaction, because I don't really remember that, from a dad's perspective. But I remember going up, and my dad, that's when he first taught me to stand back, and you always check the deer. You always get a stick or something, or now kind of do it with your bow or your arrow or your gun or whatever it is. And he taught me then to never step over a deer. You never, that's disrespectful.
mm-hmm.
It was always respecting the animal, and showing that animal as much respect, because this is like, it's
you're taking a life.
Yeah, you are. And you show a little remorse. Like, I have a little remorse sometimes for taking, an animal.
Every time.
Yeah.
It's never easy.
No, it really isn't. And, I just remember that in the clean, ethical kill that he taught me. Like, he was strict on me when I was shooting a bow. I was so geared up to be starting hunting when I was 12. But he told me, he's like, if you can't put 5 arrows in a pie plate, you're not hunting until you do.
Yeah.
And I was
Great
out
method.
there. Yeah, and I was out there busting my butt, like shooting my bow all the time, and I had to get to a certain poundage where it was a poundage, and being able to put, 5 consistent arrows in a pie plate. I remember coming home from school, my dad wouldn't be home from work, and my mom would be there, and when I was trying to get my poundage up, I couldn't pull my bow back, so my dad would leave a bucket upside down out by the target, and I would put my bottom cam on that bucket, and it would help me pull my bow back.
That's weird.
So it would kind of give you a little extra, like, help. So you just set it down on it and pull it back, and it would let me get it back. So that's kind of how I built my muscle memory, and I could shoot out there when my dad wasn't home to help me. And I finally, I did it, and I got to where I needed to be, and I don't know. It's just those memories. It's just, now it's like times have changed so much. I mean, it's like a lot of kids are just in electronics and iPads and.
Well, I mean, your dad, he helped you with the process. It wasn't just about killing the animal. I mean, he helped you with shooting the bow and taught you the process, everything in between. Which,
Yeah.
that just that keeps you engaged and encourages you to, you know, get into the sport more.
Yeah.
You know, you're always going to want to better yourself, and that's awesome that your dad did that, and you know, that's hopefully I can do that too, you know.
Exactly. I remember the first time I had to gut a deer, and I shot this buck with my bow, and we were tracking it. It was me, my dad's best friend Archie. He's like a second father to me. Known him my whole life, and he's part of our hunt camp. And I think my Uncle Bill was there too, I think. And we're tracking it. It's at night with lanterns and everything. And we find the deer. And my dad, he told me he would gut my first couple deer. He was going to show me how to do it. So we get up on this deer and getting ready to gut it. And my dad just stands up, turns around, walks away, goes back to the truck. And he's like, as he's leaving, he's like, "You're gutting it. I'm leaving." You know, like just left me there to gut it. You know, he showed me how to do it. And now he was like, "Do it. Get it done. You know, however you got to do it to get it done."
You felt like, oh shit.
Yeah. I'm like, oh God, what do I do here? You know, and it's like, you got to remember that stuff. And, you know, he taught me before and how to do it. And, you know, and it was an experience I'll never forget, you know, and Archie was there. My Uncle Bill was there to kind of help me, but they were the same way. They were like, "You're doing it. We'll show you if you have a question, but you're doing it. We'll hold the legs. Get your hands dirty."
Mm-hmm.
You know.
You ever make you wear gloves, or you just were just deep into it?
I wore gut gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still do, just because we know a guy that got an infection in his hand, and from gutting a deer, because he had a cut on his hand, and it got infected, and like his whole arm swelled up, and almost had to amputate his arm.
Jeez.
So ever since I saw that, I'm like, well, I mean, these gut gloves are like $2 a pack. Might as well throw them on, you know, and they are pretty convenient. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know. That's just a lot of cool memories. I mean, growing up doing that stuff, and now that I have a daughter, hopefully she'll want to, you know, pick up the lifestyle. I hope. If I'm not gonna force her to do it by any means, but I'm gonna introduce her to everything, and whatever she wants to hold on to, then great, you know. And I don't remember my dad ever forcing me, but I think it was just one of those things. I'm one of the guys, you know, I'm going to do what Dad does, you know, and I just.
You just got to give that option.
Yeah, for sure.
And just tell her that she'll be cool.
Yeah.
Because girls who hunt are pretty cool.
They are pretty cool. Yeah, and I think what will be cool to her too is because my wife hunts as well. My wife loves to bow hunt, and you know, she doesn't get a lot of time now because of Peyton, and you know, we're trying to raise a kid and everything, and it's kind of took a back seat, but she still loves to get out there and do it, and she'd rather do it with me. She'd rather have me go out there with her and help her along, because she's still kind of new to it. She's only been bow hunting since 2009. You know, she shot a couple deer with her bow and hasn't shot one in a while, but she needs to get some more deer under her belt, but yeah, she's passed up some good bucks that she probably shouldn't have passed up, you know, and that's, I mean, teach their own, you know, whatever they want to do. So
yeah, that's, you know, growing up for me, I never really had, you know, the father figure to show me you know, how to hunt. Actually, my dad and I and my twin brother, we actually got into hunting together, and I was 17, my dad was in his later 30s, and it was great, you know, being able to hunt with each other. And I mean, we didn't know what we were doing. I mean, it was pretty brutal, but I mean, we learned from our mistakes, and you know, hanging out and having that you know, I guess sorry, the word I'm trying to say.
Camaraderie?
Yeah, the connection, you know, with all three of us all three of us not
learning
being, you know,
together.
learning together, and that was huge. And, you know, we just build off each other. but that's kind of how.
What was your earliest memory that you remember?
Oh boy, I was 17 years old. I mean, it was the first time I ever killed a deer. It was crazy. It was, well, when my dad, we grew up in Holland, Michigan, you know, close to other houses, you know, in Qualisac, you know, everybody's like right there tight. We never had any property. And then when we moved out to Coopersville, my dad had a 40 that he had with the house. And, you know, we really were like, we don't know what we're going to do with this property. And going to a smaller school, you know, I feel like everybody hunted. It was almost like October 1st. It was like nobody went to school.
Exactly.
And so we just, you know, with friends and you know, getting into hunting, it was great. But I remember the first time I go out back behind the house. I mean, I was in viewing distance of my mom in the kitchen. Like, that's how close I was to the house. And it was this platform that we built, and I'm sitting in the corner, and sure enough, I had a spike come out, and I thought it was the biggest spike that I've ever seen. I mean, he probably had, and to this day I'll never forget, he had at least 10-inch spikes. And who knows how old he was?
Giant.
Giant.
11, Michigan 11 pointer.
Michigan 11 pointer. I'm just gonna say that. And behind this buck was what I thought was a 6-point, you know, basket rack 6-point, and I. You know, and to this day, I kind of black out every time I pull back a bow.
Oh, every time. It's blackout mode, straight blackout mode.
It is. And I just remember, you know, putting on the pin. I practiced a bunch that year, and I put the pin right behind the shoulder, and I just let her rip. And sure, I couldn't.
There's a coyote right there on the edge of the road.
Was it
Sorry
really?
to interrupt you.
Look at that.
Yeah. Big coyote.
That's something that I
right outside of Chillicothe, Missouri.
Ooh. Anyway, so arrows in flight. Couldn't tell you where I hit the deer, and all of a sudden I heard some rustling just on the tree line. Sure enough, I thought he died right there. Actually, we had workers come back. My dad owns a small business, and we had a couple guys come back, and I'm running over there. The only people that are home, really. And I go down there, and I go up to one of the guys, and he's a hunter, and he goes, what happened? He goes, I'm like, oh, I shot a deer. And he's like, what kind? And I'm like, oh, it was a deer. He's like, no, you idiot. Doe or buck? And I'm like, oh, it's a buck. And we went back there, and sure enough, it died right there. And it was only a 4-point, but it had the G1 and then the main beam, and the other side it had just the G1 and the brow tine and the main beam. So it was cool little deer. I actually mounted them. My dad said he would mount our first deer that we ever killed, and that was the first memory that I had of. I mean, I was addicted ever since.
Oh yeah,
that was it.
Yeah, and that just goes to show you too. I mean, I started at an earlier age than you did, but obviously, I mean, we had different mentors as well.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's cool that you and your dad and your brother got to do it all at the same time, like learn at the same time, you know, because then it's like all trial and error.
Oh, it was.
You know, and you have 3 different troubleshooters out there, like, hey, coming back to, you know, the house that night. Okay, what'd you do?
Yeah.
You know, this didn't work. So it was like that. I could see that being really, really unique and cool to be able to bounce ideas off each other, and you know, you're all trying to get to the same common goal, right?
Yep.
So it's like, that's neat, you know.
It was heavy frustration, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Like there was
probably a lot of butting heads sometimes.
Yeah, there was. It's like, what are we doing wrong?
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, like you said, I mean, you learn from your mistakes. So
yeah.
I'm curious too, just with that scenario, like, so you guys all decided the same year, hey, we all want to do this, right? Like, where did you go for information and everything? Like, how did you decide, okay, we're gonna buy this bow, this type of camo, this is all the stuff that we need to do this? Like, I mean, this was what, 10 years ago or more, right?
Yeah.
12. So
yeah, it was
like,
about 12 years ago.
How did you guys do that?
Well, there was a couple guys in our group. We had a guy that was working for my dad that was into hunting, and I actually bought his my first bow was one of his bows that I got for probably about $200. It was a Ross. I don't even think they make them anymore. But great bow, smooth as can be. But we piggybacked off a lot of guys, and actually my dad, eventually, it was after 3 years of hunting whitetails, my dad wanted to go out of state, and he thought it would be a good idea to start a outfitting gig in Southern Illinois, Vienna,
So he
Illinois.
just jumped right into
Oh,
it.
he full boat jumped right into it. Well,
I mean-
actually, it was actually his chiropractor. His chiropractor's parents lived in Vienna, Illinois. And, they got to talking, and one thing leads to another, and both of them are like, let's start an outfitting business. And it was huge it was huge in the, what was it? Shoot. I think it was 2007?
2008?
Yeah, 2007, 2008.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of what pushed us even further into the addiction, I would say. But yeah, I mean, we piggybacked off other people, and but yeah, it was even off the piggyback, we were still trial and error.
Yeah.
Arrows,
I have to
everything.
imagine the first time too. Like, did you guys all go out on the same day?
Oh yeah, we were all within 30 yards of each other.
That's I imagine walking out all of you for the first time.
Oh, there was
not like
there was an opportunity on deer too, and I remember, I'll never forget, this was actually probably one of the best moments. It was literally me, my dad's friend, which he was, I would say, he hunted a little bit longer than we did, and he was in between my dad and I, and then my dad was off to his left, but we were literally all within 40 yards of each other, and he was grunting. I didn't know what was going on. We were sitting on the ground. Like, there was no cover. Like, it was ridiculous. We actually had a buck come in, and it came within 40 yards of me, and I didn't know what to do. Like, I looked at that deer, and I let him go, and sure enough, the guy in the middle shot. And unfortunately, we couldn't find this deer. But, I mean, that happens. But, yeah, that was crazy. We were all within 40 yards of each other with bows. Probably not a good idea. I wouldn't recommend anybody doing that.
I'd rather be bows and guns, though.
Yeah, that's true. At least we were all facing the same way. Or, yeah, facing forward. So we knew where each other were. But
Yeah.
it was nuts. Couldn't believe it.
That's
That
brutal.
actual deer came in, of all things. But that was a good memory.
Yeah, and you'll never forget those,
No.
No. And it just, if you ever are blessed and you get to have kids, like, I'm going to bet you're going to be like my dad was to me. You know what I mean? Because you learned it. So
Mhm.
now it's like trying to get your youngin into it in a young age and teach them everything you can at a younger age so they can grasp it and kind of get, into it a little quicker than you did. That's same with my dad. My dad didn't start hunting until he was 18, and his dad never hunted,
Mhm.
and my dad was the oldest of his brothers and sisters, and, he didn't start hunting until he was almost out of high school. And it was just one of those things. I think I think one of his friends did it or something like that and kind of got him into it, and, just snowballed from there. But times were different back then when we were growing up too, and that's just goes to show you. He started then, but then when he had me and, tried to get me into it, and I was just, I just attached myself to it and took it from there.
Oh, I'll definitely, definitely younger age. I can't wait, actually. I mean, who says I can't use that as an excuse to get into the woods?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for that moment.
Do you guys remember your first turkey hunt? Since we are in turkey season, and we can talk a little bit about turkeys.
First turkey hunt or
First
time that you were like successful?
First time you were successful.
Yes.
Give it to me.
It was my dad.
I can't imagine it was more of a debacle than mine, so let me hear it.
My first one that I ever fired a gun, I rolled a tom at like 45 yards and didn't get him, and that was my youth hunt. And I was just
Crying.
yeah. I mean, I
Bawling.
was I lost it.
Little
And then-
girl.
Yeah, like sobbing. It wasn't fair. But then the next year I went out with my dad, and we set a tent up way up on this hill. We were facing east, and we were on this field with a pine ridge that dropped down into another little field that they had started to plant a bunch of pine trees. So it used to be a field, and then it was a bunch, like rows of new pines, and then a hardwoods, and then on the other side of that was an ag field that was corn. And from the top, you could see the field that was through the new pine, through the hardwoods, and it had to be, I don't know, like a quarter mile away. But you could see it. And in the morning, the birds were out there every single morning. So we hunted it 3 mornings in a row. The third morning is the morning that I got my tom. But we would see birds on the field on and off all day. And then I remember the third morning was like the first time that I actually heard a gobble. And we heard a gobble down in that field and could see birds down there. And my dad was calling. And this tom honestly gobbled almost every time that he touched the slate call that morning. And at one point, you know, he's just like, all right, it's coming this way. And we could see it in the field start to come into the hardwoods, lost it in the hardwoods, caught a glimpse of it down in the pine trees. And this whole ordeal, I mean, it took like 2 hours for it to get from that field through the hardwoods up to us. And I remember, you know, when I was that young, I'm like, call, where is it? Like, I wanted my dad, I wanted to hear the gobble. I wanted to know that it was still there and that it was still coming. So it would be like, I probably thought it was forever, but it was probably like 5 minutes, and I'd be like, Dad, call again, see if it's right there. And he would make me wait. And I remember after we had seen it in the field where all those pine trees were, it was just a big hill that came up to us. So it was pine trees and hardwoods kind of behind us, and we were sitting on this field. And he called like 4 different times, and we didn't get an answer. And I was so disappointed. Like, I
thought the bird was gone.
I thought it was gone. I'm like, I don't get it. It gobbled this whole time. We saw it in the bottom field. Like, what happened? And I remember like asking him, like, why did this happen? You know?
Yep.
And he, you know, is the way that it is. And then all of a sudden we're sitting there, and he didn't, you know, he would call every 10 minutes is the way that my dad always turkey hunted. He'd have a stopwatch where every 10 minutes, that's when, you know, he'd yelp. So he did it after like those 4 times, and it sounded off on the hill behind us. And then it was just like the fire reignited, and we sat there, and all of a sudden saw the red head pop up over the berm of the hill, and he worked out right out in the field in front of us, and I smoked him. But I mean, it took like 2 hours, and it was just highs and lows of where is this bird? It's coming. It's not anymore. And I do vividly remember when it didn't answer for, it would have been 40 minutes if it were, you know, 3 or 4 times or whatever. And I was just so disappointed because it was the 3rd day, and I'm like, this is the first bird that had responded over and over and over again, and then it just stopped, and I wanted to get out and go look for it. We're not doing that. We're gonna sit here. So
God, it sounded like my week.
Do you remember what gun you were using?
Yes, a Remington 870 Express Youth Edition.
Best gun ever. I still have mine.
Yeah.
That's what I shot my first one with.
Yeah, that was my first gun.
Adam, what was your first turkey extravaganza?
Oh my gosh.
Actually, no, that was like with your gun that you filmed, right? The full body mount.
Yes. There were many attempts before that, though. Again, there was I've only been turkey hunting for, I would say, about 3 years, like hard. And when I first got into it, none of my friends were turkey hunters. And so, again, it was trial and error.
Are they now?
No, I don't have a lot of friends. I mean, Lee.
I don't have a lot of friends.
Let me rephrase that. I still don't have, like, the friends from Coopersville that are into turkey hunting. Lee actually got me into turkey hunting. So I would say I've never had any opportunities before I shot the the one that I got full body mounted, but there was a couple of them where I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like,
Yep.
there was, I have to say this, talk about this one time. My buddy and I, we got this property that we had up in Belding, never hunted turkeys. And we'd always see them deer hunting. Never hunted them during turkey season, and I brought my buddy out there. I think it was like 11 o'clock, and we were strolling out there. I had no idea what to do. I think I have a box call and a sleigh call. We go out there, and we see 6 toms in the field. And our idea was we're going to cut them off, right? We're not going to bring them to us. We're going to cut them off. And this was there was like this little drop off into this this green field, and so we bust ass all the way across this field. And I was actually starting to film then, and I had an EX1, and he had a bow. He wanted to kill a turkey with a bow. And we go out there, and we were across that field, and sure enough, turkeys start coming. We didn't call or anything, but we got into a position where we were just stuck. You know, we couldn't do anything. He was shooting a bow, and I was filming. We were laying down on our bellies, and these turkeys got within 5 yards of us. I mean, and I still think of this day, like, if I just had a gun, those turkeys would be dead.
Done deal.
Like, and that was another trial and error. But when my first turkey was 3 years ago. I actually went out for breakfast with my now wife, and we went out early breakfast. It was like a 7 a.m. breakfast. I got back to the house at my parents' house at 8 a.m., and I hit the box call just to try to see what's going on, and sure enough, across the street, I hear a couple gobbles. And so I had all the gear. I still actually was shooting the EX1, grabbed the camera, grabbed my blind, grabbed the decoys, and I was out there. I was set. Probably took me a good hour and a half to get set up and put everything out there, and I didn't know if the turkey was still there. And just small little yelps, you know, and sure enough, he gobbles off again. And I know he's across the street. And I'm like, I have no idea how this turkey is going to get across the road and onto my farm, or my parents' farm. And I just waited. I was hunting on like a small little green field, and I just waited, and I think it was like every 10 minutes I would call. And sure enough, he gobbled. Right next to the road. He hasn't crossed yet, but he wanted to. And all of a sudden, car drives right by, and I'm like, "You gotta be shitting me! Like, this turkey's gone for sure." And I didn't say anything, didn't do anything, and just sat there. And sure enough, he wanted to come, and he crossed the road, and all of a sudden he popped out, and I was actually rolling a GoPro, and had the sticks and the EX1 in the blind with me, and so I'm self-filming, and sure enough, he comes right in, and I remember I'm like, I'm killing this turkey, and I know for sure I put my bead right center punch in the body, like
on his beard.
Oh yeah, I mean basically on his beard.
Screw the beard.
Oh yeah. I pulled the trigger, and he was about 20 yards, and blew the beard right off. Completely off. And I'm actually looking back at the footage, and it was a triple beard. And I blew it right off. The whole thing. And
she gone.
Luckily, when I went up to the turkey after, the emotion of killing your first bird, I looked down, and sure enough, all 3 beards were still together, and I couldn't believe it. And I remember running up to the house, grabbing a plastic bag, shoved the beard in there, and I went to my taxidermist like hour later, and sure enough, I right then and there I decided I was going to get a full body mount on him.
With a small house loan. Now
yeah.
You have a.
I would have to say I probably would never get another full body mount on a turkey.
Aggressively expensive.
Yeah, it was.
They're cool though.
They are. Yeah. I mean, you see these guys now using full body mounts on actually live as a decoy.
Yep.
And wow, I mean, that's kind of aggressive. I don't know if I would spend that much money.
Someday I would like to have like a full body mount. But
for a decoy?
No.
Oh,
for
just in general, yeah.
Yeah, just for, my house. But I want it to be like a, like a stud, like a big bird,
How would you do it? Full strut?
I don't know. Like, there are some good-looking full strut ones. But there's some good-looking ones on a limb, too, that you can hang,
That's
like,
what I
on the
like.
wall and stuff. Like, there's some good-looking mounts on there. I really honestly haven't looked at a ton of different turkey mounts. I've been through a lot of, like, shoulder mounts for whitetails and stuff, but, like, I haven't seen a lot of turkey mounts,
I would recommend the branch if you're hanging it up on the wall, because I mean I have mine on the ground and it's kind of cumbersome.
Dog gets after it.
Yeah, it's just sometimes it's
trip
just,
over it.
just in the way.
Yeah.
I think one on the limb gobbling would be really cool. You could either have it on a branch in the house, or if you have
Like a balcony or something.
yeah, I mean, that would be cool actually, to be able to kind of position it wherever you wanted. Or
Hell, just bring a whole oak tree in the living room and put it up in there.
Hey, if your wife
put a
lets
beam
you.
in your
That'd
house.
be actually pretty sweet.
That would be really cool.
Have a tree in your living room, have it perched up there.
Have all your mounts around it.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, my first turkey hunt, I was 12, and the first one I went on, I mean, lots of learning experiences in the first 2 trips. So the first one I ever went on was cool. It was a roost hunt, opening morning, got sat down, and I didn't realize turkeys could see so well. I think my dad told me they could, but I'm like, well, how good's that, And the birds came in from behind us. They're about probably 60 yards behind us, and I'm doing what Uncle Ted would say, the backstrap ballet around this tree to try to get my gun around, just moving. I was probably doing like a pirouette, and all of a sudden you hear
Gone.
and I'm like, what? And then they're running the other way. I remember my dad coming over and just, what are you doing? Hold me moving. And I'm like, Dad, I was barely moving. He's like, I saw you. You're basically running laps around that tree. And I'm like, okay, so I can't move. And then, so those birds are gone. So I think I had to wait, I had to go to school the rest of the week, and I think it was the next weekend. Him and I were going back out to the same ridge, Roost Ridge there that, the birds are always on. And we're already running late. We're pulling into the property, and it's already breaking day. And we should be listening for birds and be getting ready to, get on them. And we pull in, and he goes, it was either he asked me or I asked him. I can't remember. I think I asked him. I said, Dad, do you have my shells? No. I said, well, I don't have them. Me expecting my dad to get them for me. And got all pissed off and had to turn around, go back home real quick, and then we had to come back out. It's fully daylight when we get back out there. Had to find out where the birds were. They're already in the ground. Luckily, we located them, got on the ground. This bird works in, and I shoot him. And we run up there, and he's gone. No sign of birds. Nothing. We're like, where is he? We're standing almost looking around. We're in the middle of the timber. Where could this bird have gone? Out of nowhere, here he comes. He's stumbling out from behind this tree. How they flop around and everything.
This is after you shot him.
This is after I rolled him. And and he got pinned behind this big tree, and he's just doing his flop thing. You know what turkeys do. And my dad's got a single shot 10 gauge. It's a cannon. Okay, I've seen him take down popple shoots trying to shoot at turkeys with this thing. He'll shoot through a sapling, and the sapling will just fall right over, and the bird falls on the other side because it's just, 3-inch to 3.5-inch single shot 10 gauge.
Yeah, it's a cannon.
Yeah. And he comes crawling out, flopping around, and he just, oh, woo, shoots him, and done. So done right there. And then it was just, excitement from there. But I will tell you, I have never since then forgot ammo. It just like stuck with me,
It's a big. You
It's like
really
one
need
of
to
those
have
thi-
that.
Yeah, you need to kind of have those experiences. Well, I did anyway, just because, I was a lazy little kid, just a little 12 years old, want to sleep in,
Yeah.
I think a lot of kids are that way, but
I think everybody probably goes through that
Yeah.
at least one point in your hunting career. You
Yep.
forget your ammo, or you forget your quiver or something, and you hope you never do it again.
that brings up a good question. What have you guys forgot? And any hunt that was like, ever forgot your bow or gun or something, anything?
Oh boy, I can start this one off. This is not anything I forgot. This was a rush out the door. I was, you just don't tell many people this, but I was with Gabe Adair, and this is my first year hunting with him. And there was one morning where we were kind of rushed, we wanted to get to the stand early, and I go in the garage and I grab my boots, and I had actually two pair of boots sitting right next to each other, and I grabbed my pair and I ran out to the truck, and we usually change when we get out to our spot, and so I had sandals on, and I put my boots on, and I have both left footers. And talk about the most uncomfortable
And it's
walk.
not your hunt either.
It's not my
You're
hunt.
filming someone,
Yeah.
so it's like you suck it up.
Oh, yeah. And I'm just thinking, like, I'm not going to tell Gabe that I just left, or that I grabbed two left footers. Like, there's no way. And I stuck it out. We hunted for a while. Like, we had some good activity, and I stuck it out. It was a long sit, uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. So it's not so much what I forgot, it's what I grabbed.
So you've never forgot like arrows or broadheads or like your bow or gun release. I mean, releases like,
if anything, it wasn't anything like that stuck with me. Like, maybe I had to turn around my truck and I was right around the corner, and I forgot my quiver, but nothing like that ruined my hunt.
mm-hmm.
I would still have to say that the both left boots were that was a struggle for me.
What about you, Aaron?
What about me?
Yeah.
Oh man, I would have to think about this. I don't know if I remember. I don't think I've forgot anything big. Filming wise, I've forgot some stuff. And if anybody out there, has filmed for a living or does film for a living, that the first sit of the year is always the worst sit of the year, because you're not in the groove, you haven't been filming in a while, and Casey and I, we never make our first set in the morning. We try to do it for an evening sit.
I like that.
You like the morning sits?
I mean, mornings are a struggle. It's dark, trying
dude.
to get everything.
And you're sweating up there, just sweating, trying to get the arm hung and everything. Well, anyway, this goes back a couple years. I think it was like 2015 season. Casey and I were in Illinois. First set, going in for evening. We walk. I mean, a long walk. I would have to say over a mile. At least a mile to the stand, sweating. Okay, this is like October. Like you're in nothing but base layers getting to the stand, because you're just gonna be just beating sweat. Okay, we get to the stand, and I forget the ratchet strap for the base, for the camera base, and I go, son of a bitch. And he goes, what? I go, I think I can make it work. He goes, what? And I go, I forgot the ratchet strap.
What camera were you using?
PMW 300.
So not a bad setup if you have to freehand it.
Not a bad setup, but I didn't want to freehand it.
Yeah.
I just didn't. I'm better than that. not that it's a bad thing. I just want it to be good and solid. And I'm trying to like take off my safety harness belt to make it for and try to like because I don't want to go back to the truck. Well, I couldn't make that work. So I'm like, all right, I'll be right back. I ran back to the truck through this field, sweating. I mean, just my pores were just inflamed. Okay, finally get back, and I'll never forget a strap. I carry an extra strap with me now. But other than that, I forgot my release, a couple times, but I always keep an extra in my bag.
That's a pro tip right there.
That is a pro tip. Keep an extra release in your bag, or a lot of people don't hunt with a bag. I recommend it.
Yep.
You don't even need a big bag, like just a European satchel.
Yep.
Something.
Yep.
Get you a little fanny
pack.
pack.
Well,
Yeah.
hey, they're in. They're
Anything.
back.
Yeah, so are visors. I just don't believe it though.
Yeah.
But I recommend it. For anything. I keep a lot of stuff in my bag, like flashlight, knife, tags, gut gloves, whatever.
Some
I have a pro
tape.
tip for you actually, and I can't take credit for this one. I learned this from someone else, but I thought it was a great idea.
Okay.
Have a hunting wallet.
That's a good idea.
What do you mean?
You got your normal wallet that you carry all the time. So have a wallet that's just for hunting.
Your licenses
In it,
hunter
sports
safety
cards,
certificate.
all that stuff. So
Good
I
idea.
took my old wallet that was kind of worn out that I didn't, use anymore, and that's where all my licenses are, my sports card, any zip ties or anything. It's just like in that.
Mm-hmm.
I usually keep that in my bag. It's got a pocket for its own spot. It doesn't move. Wallet, and then keep a release. I can't stress this enough, but do not go into the tree without a safety harness on. Like, wear a safety harness.
It's stupid not to.
It really is.
I could say numerous times that I forgot. I would always wear my safety harness, but like your lifeline,
Yeah.
or not so much a lifeline, but the rope that you put
Rope
around
style tree strap.
Yep,
Yeah.
tree strap. I would forget that, and the harness is useless.
Yeah. And like the lifelines, man, like Justin and I talked about it last podcast about, this is kind of a different end of the spectrum, but we were talking about how we equate bowstrings like truck tires or like vehicle tires, like spend a little extra money to get like a nice custom string, an aftermarket string on there, because you can't shoot your bow without a string, and usually the factory strings don't uphold very well like an aftermarket does. It's just like a truck or a vehicle. You always got to change your tires too, after so long. But just spend the money. What I'm trying to say is, like, go spend the money on some lifelines. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, like, go to huntersafetysystem.com and like type in lifeline, and it'll show you you're connected from the ground to the stand and back to the ground. You're never disconnected.
That's huge.
And it's got that pressic knot on it that you can slide up and down. Another pro tip for you too, when you are using the pressic knot, when you're climbing the tree, don't hold on to the pressic knot. Put your hand underneath of it, like so you're almost like holding onto the rope, because if you're to fall and your first initial reaction is to grab that pressic knot, when you grab that pressic knot, how it works is when there's tension on it, it'll grab. Like, that's the way the knot is. But if you like grab the pressic knot with your hand, it will not like hold you. It'll take you right to the ground.
Huh.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so always use it on below the pressic knot. So you're almost like pushing the pressic knot up.
Makes sense.
Yep. Another little fun tip for you.
Yeah, I would say, get back on the subject of leaving something. I would say, as a cameraman, I did leave my plate.
Ooh, that's a bad one.
Yeah, it's a real bad one. So I did have to freehand it. Luckily, we never seen anything that was worth well, I mean, I've always was filming, but we didn't kill. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
And I was excited for that one. I mean, I just told the hunter, I was like, hey, I gotta do what I gotta do. You know, I didn't have to hang the base or anything, and it was just a free hand. But
Yep.
yeah, I would say the plate was a bad move on my part.
How about best hunting memory ever? Go.
I'll let Adam go first.
Oh boy, I would say it was November 17th of 2015. I was in Ohio, and I
163.
163, Mr. Majestic. I killed my biggest buck. I would say that was my proudest moment in the woods. Yep, I would say for sure. First really good bow kill, and oh gosh, the feeling is overwhelming still. But I would have to say that, yeah, that was my best moment.
What about filming?
Filming was when I filmed Gabe killed that 226.
Yep.
That was crazy, because I mean there was such a story behind that one, and you know, the opportunities we had on him, and seeing him and then finally harvesting him. I think that was a great moment, and it kind of just reminded me why I do what I do.
Yep.
What about you?
I'd have to say the best moment I had. I feel like I've answered this question before, and it's probably going to be a different answer than I had before. But my wife's, she shot a buck with her. The last buck she shot with a bow. We were hunting together. It was a morning rut hunt, crispy morning. Two does come through behind us, and about 3 minutes later, a buck had come on their trail, and he was trotting, and I was trying to get him to stop. I yelled with the grunt, basically, got him to stop, and then I gave him a couple soft contact grunts. He circled us, came out to 18 yards, and she smoked him. And that was, I filmed her doing it, and that was like, I just remember seeing like the joy on her face, and it was like so cool for me. That's pretty high up there. And then filming, I mean, nothing can beat Megatron. 18 days hunting one deer, and it was the most grueling whitetail hunt or season that we've had. And I would have to say Megatron, 118 days, and we saw him 3 times, I think it was, but we got skunked. We sat for him, you know, basically every day. We got skunked, I would say 75 to 80% of the time. Never saw a deer.
That's rough.
Yeah, it's tough.
But we knew we were going to see him. We knew it was just only a matter of time.
Were you changing locations constantly?
Nope, hunted the same stand.
Same stand.
Same stand,
Wow.
same stand, and then we did a hang and bang. The crops came off. There was standing corn that we were up against, and finally the crops came off, and we did a hang and bang that morning, and got into the stand midday, rattled, came in, shot him.
That's crazy.
Yep. So we did move once, but one stand, and we just had good access, man. We had access that was bulletproof, and
That's huge.
we got in there, didn't booger him up, and it worked out. So I'd have to say Megatron for sure.
Obviously, you knew that he was around, or you wouldn't have been hunting the same stand and not
Yep.
seeing anything, right?
Yeah. When I think Chris hung the camera, he was the first deer that showed up, 183-inch 8-point.
Couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
That's just, it's one of my biggest dreams is to kill an 8-point.
A
I mean, not even to that caliber,
I
just a
mean,
giant 8-point, you know?
That deer's on a different level.
Oh,
I think, I could be wrong. It was either 43 or 46 sticks out to my head, but he had, I want to say it was 46 inches of mass. That's all. That's
a lot.
Just in mass.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
What is
You
it,
know.
40%?
Mass is 40% of your score.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, when you got that, that's...
Yeah, I mean, think about I don't know. I mean, his beams were long. He carried his mass. He's just a giant.
What would be your goal, like if you had one opportunity or one chance to shoot either an awesome 8-point, let's just say to the caliber of Megatron, or would you rather shoot a 200-inch deer? Like,
Oh, man, that's tough.
it is tough.
Are you a typical or non-typical guy?
I'm a
if
typical.
If you could shoot a 200-inch and it's typical or non, you would go typical?
I'd go typical every day. I love typical-looking deer. But I don't know. What were you going to say, Adam?
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than, I don't know, for me, like a typical, slick, deer. Love it.
I mean, let's be honest. A 130-inch 8-point is a big 8-point.
Absolutely.
Like, that's a good 8-pointer.
It's got to carry all the way through.
Yeah, it's a tough to get to that, and I don't know, man. What's yours, typical or non-typical?
I think I would be typical as well. I'd want a couple stickers though. I'd want the frame to be typical, but have a couple little
Have a couple ring hangers.
A little character.
Yeah, just a little bit of character, a little junk.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's what Megatron was, too. I mean, he had a bunch of kickers off his bases, too. I mean, do you remember what his bases were?
Oh man, I mean, everybody uses the phrase of beer cans,
Yeah.
but they were like I couldn't put my fingers around them.
Yeah, that's a good indication. He's big.
Yeah, a couple years before that, we killed the strong arm, which he was a freak deer. Like, he was typical, but he had an injury that kind of screwed up one side. That didn't. I mean, his beams and everything was there, but it was kind of like different form. But he scored 175, and he had bases that were just bigger than Megatron's. I mean, that was stupid. We hunted that deer for 2 weeks, and hang and bang, did a hang and bang, killed him one day, and then Majestic Lion, mule deer, killed him, hunted him for like 12 days.
Casey's the type of guy that likes to stick with one deer, you know.
And I love that. Like I said, when I was hunting with him, I've been hunting with him since 2012, and he got me into that, and that's what's so cool about it. And there's times where deer sometimes a lot of times are just unpredictable, and you kind of go with bird in the hand kind of thing too. You know what I mean? It's like we got history with a lot of deer because we like to set up our own farms and know these deer and name them and have history with them. So it's not like we're chasing one deer, but it's like we're also chasing like 4 or 5 deer. On Kansas we've got Bob Marley, and we got Shakes, and we've got not Lone Star, Sundown, and and there's just...
You chase the story, though, too. I mean, as a producer...
For sure.
You definitely chase the story.
I mean, we're going into... This will be the 3rd year with story on Shakes and Bob Marley.
Oh, my gosh. I can't wait.
And I can't wait to tell the story about Shakes.
Oh, gosh. What an impressive animal.
Oh. I mean, he's booner all day right now. Or last year he was. As a 4-year-old. And he is just such an impressive deer.
He's got everything.
He does. He's got a little bit of junk. He doesn't have great tine length, but he's like, I think he's like either a 6x6 or a 7x7. He's just got a lot of tine. He just got a lot of scoreable, which helps.
Yeah. His mass carries, though, too.
Oh, yeah, he's just got mass for days. He's not very wide.
I like those
sheds.
tight. Oh.
We could find his sheds tomorrow.
Well, that would be pretty neat.
Well, it looks like the weather turned a little bit. Like that.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to. I mean, Tuesday looks like it's going to be all day rain. So we'll see. But we're entering Clay County.
Look at
No
that.
idea where Clay County's at.
Yeah.
It's not the county that we hunt in. We're still like 2 hours away from our destination.
We're in Kansas.
I believe so. No, we're in Missouri. We're not even in Kansas City yet.
Yeah, we got a while.
We've been talking for an hour and 48 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Kansas City, 29 miles, right there. Yeah, I don't know. You guys got any closing thoughts? We could wrap this up here.
We wrapped. We covered a few
Or we could keep
categories.
it going.
We could keep it going too. I mean, might as well kill some time. Pick a
Trying to
category.
think if there's anything else. There always is.
Is there something that... I don't know how to put that. Is there something that... in hunting that's really bothering you right now in the hunting industry? Let's get into that.
Oh boy, that's
So many
you're opening
things.
some doors there.
Yeah.
Start us off.
Yeah, I'm gonna look to you, Keegan. You're on social media every day, so
I don't want to answer this one.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
lay it out there.
I think I don't know. It's tough. Part of me is like the whole hunters fighting hunters thing bothers me a lot. But then I look at it too and I'm like,
What do you mean, hunters?
we have like this internal battle of hunters just putting down other hunters, and you know what I mean, where it's like we're fighting each other when really we shouldn't be.
100%, man. When it goes back to when we were talking, when we started this conversation about basically you're only accepted if you kill big animals.
Mm-hmm.
Hunters fighting hunters, basically.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What,
know?
you shooting a basket rack? Whatever. Like, just because I don't doesn't mean I'll ever put anybody down for doing that. Like,
Everybody's in a different stage in their
very,
hunting
yeah.
career, you know.
Well, and also at different parts of their life. You know, I've said this before. Somebody could be terminally ill. We don't know that.
Right.
They throw a picture up on Facebook, and you're going to put your foot in your mouth if you say something. You know, you don't know what that person's been through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't know their story.
Mm-hmm.
Could be the last hunt they've ever been on.
Right.
Or it's a 4-year-old, you know, male or female that shoots their first deer. You know, you don't know the backstory on it. Why just assume the worst, you know?
Or they
Yeah.
just have different standards.
Right.
You know, like there are some people who are going to go out year after year and shoot the first buck that walks by.
They killed their buck.
Yep. They killed their buck, and that's what matters. And, you know, as much, even myself, like there's a lot of times where I look at that during gun season especially, and I'm like, man, why couldn't you just shoot a doe? But it's not my place, again,
No.
and this is
But
what
you
I'm
get-
talking about.
You
is
get
like,
caught in it, though,
I
sometimes.
know
It's
you
easy
do.
to get caught up
It
in
is
it.
easy.
And that's what I'm saying, is that for me right now is the part that, I'm guilty of it sometimes. So being hypocritical, but the whole where it's like, why are we, and again, I am on social media every single day, so I probably see it more than most people, but it's like, I don't know, just, it's like wasted time. I think we could be doing more positive for the entire sport or the entire industry rather than spending your time trying to make somebody else look stupid or, drive your point home. Because at the end of the day, with an argument, it's like, if you get two people who are bullheaded, nobody's going to win. So you just make hunters in general look stupid.
Yeah, and it goes for saying, like, what bow you shoot. You're not cool unless you shoot this bow. It's like, what does that mean? Like,
What's trendy?
yeah, it's like, I'm all about drinking the Kool-Aid sometimes.
Yeah.
As we call it, like, getting with the trends and stuff like that. Like, it's a culture. That's what companies marketing, manufacturers, that's what they're doing. The Sitkas, the Matthews, the Mountain Ops, those companies out there they're building a culture.
Right.
And you want to be a part of that culture, which is totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally fine. Like, whatever you want to do. just shed like some positive light on hunting while you're doing it.
Yeah. And that's my thing is like, so take like a sit Kikuyu, for example. Who cares what side of that spectrum you're on? Doesn't mean you need to look at the other and be like, you're stupid for wearing that, or because you wear X means that you feel this way or whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. They're both great brands.
Right. Both great brands, and they're both for hunters.
Yep.
And that's, if I want to wear freaking plaid outside, then, whatever.
That works too.
It irritates me. It really irritates me to see that a lot.
There's times that I just wish I wasn't like in the behind the scenes things in the industry, because I miss those days of just like going out and hunting and not caring, and a lot of that to do with that social media too. I mean, and there's no way around that. I mean, our freaking world is run by social media, and it's like it's easy to get scooped up in it, and it's easy to be the person pointing a finger. It's like, man, that guy's like, I don't know. It's tough. Like, it's just shed some positive light. And I agree with you though. Like, the hunters on hunters, yellow car, boom.
Oh,
yes,
It had something on the side of
yes,
it.
and
Is there writing?
No, it wasn't. That's not it's a Corvette.
I don't know.
On
you
the
never
side.
know. On the side, it looked
I'm
like
catching
there was,
up.
There's no way you're catching up to Corvette. We're pulling a trailer. So let me let you. So
flying.
just so you know, it's 12/11/6 now. So everybody for listening, Keegan's got this game, and it's called Yellow Car, and
Greatest road trip game.
it is pretty great actually. We've been playing it for the last 11 hours, and so you gotta, when you see a yellow car, you gotta shout out yellow car. First one to shout it out gets a point. Now, if you see a yellow Hummer, that's 3 points. But the kicker is like, if there's writing on the car in the sense that it's like a work car, you get docked points. So like, a Penske truck, if you say yellow car, yellow truck, you get docked. So for the longest time, Keegan and I were like battling out, and Adam was at like 2 points, and Keegan and I were like 8-8, and Adam was at 2.
Well, I started off -1 because I got excited.
Way excited.
Called the vehicle out. It had
Yep.
lettering on it.
And we go by the biggest school district in Illinois. I feel like it was, and their buses were getting repainted with no writing on them, and he called out 6 buses.
It was a
And
good
he's
score.
back in the game.
It was a good score.
But now we just had a Corvette go by, and I got a yellow car, and Keegan has 12, I have 11, and Adam's still sitting at a lonely 6.
It's tougher when you're in the back.
It is.
You can't see really what you guys are seeing, which is in front of you, and you got oncoming traffic, and you got traffic that's following you, and I got tinted windows back here.
Yeah.
So,
well, and for everybody out there
Excuses.
listening that you don't really pay attention to yellow cars, we've actually seen 2 Hummers today.
yep,
There's a lot more yellow cars that are bugs,
yep,
VW bugs,
Yep.
and
Jeeps.
Jeeps and bugs, and a lot of yellow semis. A lot
there are.
of yellow semis.
And they all have writing on them.
All of them.
If you're ever playing the game, don't jump at them.
That was my first
You
mistake.
can't. Well, they all have
Be careful.
DOT numbers on them. That's fine. DOT numbers will fly. But like if it says, Robert's Trucking,
I think
That's a
going back to
stroke.
Going back to the semi thing, I think if you do find a semi and call it and it has no writing, it has to be worth some points because you're taking a risk.
5 points.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Whoa.
5 would be great.
It'd be great for you. You'd be back in this game.
I think I'm pretty far behind in the dart.
I think you are too. I just snuck one in there though.
That's great.
That's great.
That was
You guys didn't even see it coming.
no.
I didn't.
No.
Yep. So anyway, down that rabbit hole, here we are back. So I mean, the next 4 or 5 days, we're gonna be in Kansas. Chris and Casey and Jason, they're going to be flying in tomorrow. They had some meetings in Denver, so they're flying in tomorrow evening. So tomorrow, us three, we're shooting a commercial. If the rain holds off, shooting a commercial. We are going to put together a Banks blind. Actually going to get up early and go try to find some birds. And then we're going to roost birds tomorrow night for Tuesday for the guys. So they come in, and Tuesday it's supposed to be raining all day, so we'll see. But this might turn into a shed hunt, a drinking shed hunt really quickly.
Hey, I'm not opposed to that either.
No.
I do want to get into some birds, though. I mean, I know I've been hunting them all week, but
We've been hunting aggressive.
it's fun.
It's just right now it's turkey season,
Yep.
It is.
and you just want to be.
I'm just glad it's warm.
Mm-hmm.
Spring's upon us.
I want to be sitting in the woods and just have a tom that's just
Drumming,
hammering.
spitting.
I mean, like from the moment he first gobbles, I want it to just be like, there's no question.
Like, when he gets up to the decoys, he's got a hoarse mouth because he's been gobbling so much.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Full strut all the way in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ugh. I love it.
It's kind of a weird little deal here.
Yeah.
The
Well,
red lights up there.
it's a red light district.
It must be just outside of Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
Well, cool. We're rambling. Let's wrap this up. Lastly, before we do wrap it up, though, I do want to remind everybody that we still do have the America's Best Bowstrings code going on. We're going to have this going on for a while, and it's fall podcast, so go to americasbestbowstrings.com and order your custom set of bowstrings, premium, platinum, or pursuit strings, and at checkout type in fall podcast to get $10 off your orders, $99 and over. And thank you guys for listening to this long dissertation.
Wait, Aaron, one question.
Yeah.
Because Aaron's kind of a bow guru. How often do you need to replace your strings on a bow?
I mean, realistically,
I didn't know this.
Realistically, if you take care of your string, I mean, it'll last a couple years, you know. If you wax it, you know, and okay.
Can you wax it too much?
I believe you can.
Okay.
And it doesn't take a lot of wax. Like, that's something I just learned, actually, from Bryant and Tim, is that don't, like, be just, like you're putting deodorant on yourself. Don't be just sitting there just, like, working it in. Like, literally, you can put a little wax on your fingers and just work it in with your fingers. A little bit goes a long way. I personally recommend that to get a new string every year. Like I said, I mean, if you shoot a lot, just like you drive your vehicle a lot, you're going to need new tires eventually, you know, and it's, you know, you never know. It's just, I recommend it. I do it. I've done it for 10 years now. I get a new string every year, and it's always like a cool thing to customize it. Maybe you want to change up the colors a little bit and do that, and, you know, spend a little money and do it. It's well worth it.
They're cool looking strings too.
Yeah, they perform really well, and they got some really cool stuff, that technology that they're doing that a lot of other people aren't doing. That sets them apart. So it's just cool. If everybody could go out and check them out and drop them a line, and maybe even give them a little feedback if you are shooting America's Best Bowstrings. Go onto their Facebook page and leave them a review, or go onto their website and leave them a review and just say, you know, we really like them, and you know, tell them what you think about them. And yeah, but with that long dissertation, after Keegan interrupted me, that was a good question.
Sure.
That was a good question. I do want to tell everybody, please, to go over to iTunes and Podbean and Castbox and Stitcher and Spotify, wherever you listen and download the podcast from, and just leave a review and leave a 5-star rating if you could. That just helps us out with the ratings in iTunes and kind of bumps us up a little bit more. And I mean, that's why we do this too. It's just, you know, get more information out there, but also to reach more people, and, you know, hopefully getting more people into the outdoors and hunting, and maybe teach them a little bit. And that's what's fun for me, and I know you guys too. Thanks for stepping in I know this won't be the last one. Justin's going to be leaving here on a bear hunt or a couple bear hunts, and I might have you guys jump in on a little more of them.
That was nice.
Sweet.
Killed some time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, appreciate you guys listening to this. And with that being said, gonna shut her down. Thanks, guys.
Natural.